All right, everybody, as it's 4 o'clock, we will commence this Hobart City Council workshop meeting. Present at the meeting today, we have myself, Councillor Ben Lohberger, we have Councillor Ryan Posselt, Councillor Bill Harvey, Alderman Louise Bloomfield and Councillor John Kelly. We do have a quorum is 4 and we have 5. If I assume there'll be others coming in the next few minutes, and I will call them out as they come in. We have an apology from the Deputy Lord Mayor and the Lord Mayor. Do we have any other apologies?
No, Chair.
So that's it. So look, we'll get going, and as I said, I'll just briefly interrupt when people come in, just to read out for the record that there's another elected member in the room. Okay, so we'll just start off with an acknowledgement of country. Actually, first of all, can I just advise all present that an audio recording is being made? So please be respectful of and considerate towards other peoples attending this meeting. Any language or conduct that could be perceived as offensive, defamatory or threatening to a person attending the meeting or listening to the meeting is not acceptable. For the purposes of the recording, elected members should wait for the chair to announce them before speaking, and please turn your mobiles off or down. Okay. So, an acknowledgement of country, just in recognition of the deep history and culture of this place. I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which the City of Hobart was built. I acknowledge the determination and resilience of the Palawa people of Tasmania, who have survived invasion and dispossession and continue to maintain their identity, culture and rights. I recognise the value of continuing Aboriginal knowledge and cultural practice, and I pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. Okay, I'll just note for the record, Councillor Kitsos has entered the room as well.
Thank you, Chair.
Now, can I have a confirmation of the minutes from the meeting of Monday the 15th of June,
So
please?
moved.
So moved. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Is there any debate on that? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
All against? That's passed unanimously. Supplementary items. Do we have any supplementary items, CEO?
Not tonight, Chair.
Not tonight. Fantastic. Moving across to indications of conflicts of interest. Does anyone at the table have an indication of any conflict of interest with any item on the agenda tonight? Thank you. None of those either. Are there any items proposed for transfer, either on the open or closed agenda tonight by elected members? They know. So just moving on. Brings us to section 6, reports of special committees. Councillor Harvey, I believe you chaired the most recent meeting of Climate, Sustainability and Biodiversity Committee, so would you like to move the motion?
Yep, and just a quick comment.
Sure.
It's functioning quite well, that committee. We get all of our participants turn up, which is fantastic. There might have been one apology, I think, and one resignation because they're unable to attend. But the committee's functioning pretty well. We get through our agenda, we try and manage it to time, and we've had some very interesting presentations. We heard from the mobilising a climate ready Hobart from the climate change officer, and also stormwater grants update. But generally speaking, it's a good committee, it's functioning well.
Excellent, that's great. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Does anybody else have anything to add to that debate? No. So that will move us along.
Yes, move the motion.
Okay, so Councillor Harvey's moved the motion.
Oh, yes.
I'll put that motion now. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All against say no. The motion is moved unanimously, is passed unanimously. Brings us to 6.2, which is the City Heritage Committee. Now, unfortunately, the Lord Mayor's an apology tonight, so I just have to ask someone around the table to move this motion. So, moved by Councillor Posselt. Is there any debate from any of those around the table about this item, noting that the committee chair is actually not here? No, there is not, so I'll put that motion. All those in favour of accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. That is passed unanimously. All right, moving forward quickly. On to item 7. All right, so we have Building Better Streets, the Streetscapes Project report. I'll invite an elected member to move this one. I think Councillor Posselt just beat you to it there, Councillor Harvey. So moved by Councillor Posselt.
We do have a
Well,
presentation.
we want to see the presentation first.
Yes,
before we-
yeah, I'm just getting that,
decide
just
what
getting
we-
that stuff done. So I guess we should have a look at the presentation first and then have some debate following it. So I'll invite a staff member up to the table. Staff members.
Swap the camera.
All right.
As elected members would have seen, this is somewhat of an omnibus of projects that the Place Design team has been working on throughout this year. These are all coming to you as a preliminary, seeking some preliminary feedback at the workshop, and I'll hand over to Philip, who's going to do a presentation today.
I might just interrupt just shortly, just noting that Alderman Zuko has just arrived at the meeting. Thank you, Mr Holiday.
Just before see, I've just got some documentation here that provides some background information with regards to the projects. So just pass that down. You'll notice there's three. So,
Shannon, just sit down.
oh, sorry. Yeah. Just handed out three documents for you to take home. Two pertaining to Montpellier Retreat, and then the third one, which is a project on a page for Macquarie Street South Junction. Hopefully these documents will provide you with some relevant background and further general information that will help with understanding the greater project.
Sorry, just before we get underway further, I think most of you know Philip Holiday by now, but you may not know Shannon, who's our leader of our Place Design team. So thank you very much for joining us.
Shannon, can I grab one as well?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Everyone always forgets the chair. Yeah. Thanks.
Shannon, I know, sorry to interrupt, I know they've got a number of people in the audience interested in one of some spare copies. Is it possible to have you guys look at one time?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, the key stakeholders have received their documentation already, but yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. I might just introduce Shannon, who's our project lead in urban design. So Shannon will probably go through these slides with you. So just to give you a bit of a picture, what we're doing today is really giving elected members a kind of a first sense of what we're doing in some of these projects. Some of them we have done some very initial engagement, particularly the one from Montpellier, where we've spoken to key property and business operators in Montpellier itself. Obviously done a lot of internal conversations, including with the management of Salamanca Market. Others, such as Macquarie Street South Junction, we haven't engaged with the community yet, but we have drawn on significant prior engagement, which was part of the plan for retail precincts. So really what we're doing is coming back to that precinct and taking up that previous work. The Elizabeth Street signals draws significantly from the work we did in Midtown, but really jumps on the back of a project being undertaken by State Growth and looking at value adding to that. And the Elizabeth Street Vision, elected members would realise that is part of the Central Hobart Plan. But I might just hand over to Shannon just to talk you all through the slides.
So the first project that we're looking at the moment is Macquarie Street South Junction. This is the intersection of Macquarie, Darcy, Washington and Cascade. And this upgrade is potential upgrade is a return to the South Hobart area, which comes off the City's Hobart's 2015 plan for Hobart's local retail precincts. That was adopted, and currently stages 1 and 2 have been delivered, and this represents us continuing on that stage renewal and returning to South Hobart. So the focus of this project is to one, improve safety for pedestrians, upgrade the public realm, improve the local amenity of the public realm, allow for more trees, greening, outdoor dining, public space, and then better visibility and line of sight to the playground. Taking on board previous feedback over previous years, and also some studies that we've undertaken, we have gone down and done pedestrian counts, looked at stormwater issues, if there are any there. We've actually gone out and just visually watched traffic and pedestrian movement and how it operates in the space. And we have also gone out and got some, we're getting some traffic modelling completed at the moment. We're hoping to have that completed before this workshop. Unfortunately, as you can probably know, there's been some significant upgrades to the retaining wall from the Parks Department, which we have been involved in. So that basically impacted us in the sense that we had fencing on and parking removed and fencing on the street and the like, so we couldn't get accurate traffic modelling done. So with the concept design, it looks to raise the junction, signalling, changing the hierarchy from it being purely car dominated to signalling that it's a shared area for pedestrian priority as well. A conversion to one way at Washington, and it's just to the northern end of Washington Street, creating a single entry from the south. And then that also allows for a central breakout space, wider pavements. It formalises the roundabout and enlarges and creates a more usable pedestrian space. Obviously, that'll also come along with increased greening, opportunities to incorporate public art and wayfinding and storytelling opportunities. Also, the provision of more outdoor dining, and allowing for the outdoor dining to be shifted off the building envelope, so no longer shorelining. So that would help in DDA compliance and things along those lines. And then it also includes the relocation of the bus stop, which at the moment can be problematic, particularly with its location down next to the car park, which means it's not functioning well. Additionally, it also allows for additional car parking, angled car parking to occur on Washington, which it provides for additional parking, and makes up for some of the car parking that we will lose on Macquarie Street due to the outside dining or the improvements to the footpaths.
Look, I might just jump in there. This concept just gives elected members a sense of what that reconfiguration might be. This does feed very strongly into the draft master plan for South Hobart Oval Park. Obviously, the park is an activity area on its own, gets very high levels of visitation. Also, we do have a very, very successful commercial precinct here. And this project did also have its genesis when we had some conversations a couple of years ago with the actual owner of much of those properties, who was keen to improve the amenity for his businesses and potentially move the bus stop to a more optimal location. So we've responded to that very early interest from that property owner, and obviously does try and provide more car parking and make and obviously respond to the level of activity you might see at the Oval and the park.
So we have also gone out and got some initial costings in terms from a quantity surveyor. At the moment, our findings roughly come back in the approximate area of 1.3 to 1.5 million to do something like this.
I'll just add that we're not seeking endorsement for that at this stage. This body of work has further funding, proposed funding in the upcoming budget for detailed design, but of course these works would need to be balanced against all other works as part of our 10-year capital work program.
And we do have the opportunity for some grants on the horizon that we've identified that would fit well with this project.
Yeah, and we're potentially subject to obviously council endorsement and going through the full engagement and design development process. There is an opportunity to apply for that federal funding in December this year.
Excuse me, Chair, are we going to ask questions about each section of this presentation today?
We can either do it all four at once and then ask questions, or have a minor break in between for questions. What would you prefer, Councillor Kitzel?
Oh, I had some questions directly relating to this project.
All right, we might do it that way then.
Yep.
We'll just do each one as it comes. So follow away with your question.
Great, thank you, Chair. I'm really pleased to see this. This is the intersection that actually on the walk to school active transport data shows this is one of the main reasons parents won't let their children walk to school, because you just can't cross the road safely. If they're not about, as it's kind of casually known as in the suburbs. So I think this is a huge improvement, and I'm really glad to see it. I just wanted to hear some commentary on two things. One, how it fits into the broader master planning of this area, and I think another layer to that, which maybe we haven't discussed with elected members for a while, is how the increase of visitation to the soccer field for those bigger games. It would be a shame to kind of do this beautiful upgrade of this intersection but not quite connect it for pedestrian access into that field. So just wondering whether any of that's been thought through.
Look, if I can maybe respond to that. So in terms of master planning, this really does respond to the work we did in 2015, 2017, where we obviously did a really what was a co-design with the community to come up with a range of improvements for South Hobart. We did the one bookend to South Hobart. This is actually completing that by providing the other bookend. So it really is part of that fairly coherent piece of work that we did, but really picking it up and finishing that off. Obviously, it does works very closely with the draft South Hobart South Hobart Oval and Park Master Plan, which will be coming back to elected members soon, and the current work around the actual entry point to the park was actually informed by this proposition. So we actually got in there while that was done, design was being done, and tried to embed these improvements at a very early stage. In terms of internal connectivity and access, the proposed new entry point to the new change rooms and pavilion will actually significantly improve movement from the street into the ground. But as part of the master plan, as part of that renewed work we're doing around the master plan, we are giving very particular consideration to internal access, because at the moment there are very poor levels. It's really confused environment. So we really want to try and solve those problems over time.
Great, thank you. And just to follow up in terms of access to the park with this new streetscape, was the intention still to maintain that main entrance where the vehicle goes up on the corner there?
Yep.
And will there be a secondary gate on the side, or is that going to be closed off now that work has been completed?
We probably haven't got to that level of detail yet, but that's a really good and really important consideration we can talk to our colleagues in Parks about.
Just on a note, I've had informal discussions with Heather in Parks, and the intention at this stage is for that to occur. And you very rightly pointed out with our site visits and our pedestrian capital, there is a huge flux of children, particularly around 3 o'clock. And there is a precarious crossing, and it's understandable that's been raised.
Great, thank you.
I believe we have Councillor Harvey next.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. 2 points. We've had a desire to reduce this to 40 for a long time. Is that on track to get the speed limit reduced?
I may be able to speak to that. Sorry, you're...
Or perhaps Dan?
Perhaps Mr Vidal
Mr.
can
Vidal, can
provide
talk to
some
that?
comments on that process.
Yeah, this was certainly part of the original suite of 40k as part of the retail precinct, so in Sandy Bay, Newtown and so on. This is the last one, and we've recently applied and received approval from the Transport Commissioner for it to be 40 just to the south of this. The next phase, we were indicated by the Transport Commissioner, could be applied for once this work's complete. They would be inclined to approve our application for this to be 40. So our expectation is that yes, once this is done, we would apply and receive approval for this to be 40.
Okay, and thank you. And the second question is, people needing to access their properties via Washington Street, with only having one-way access,
Yes.
what's the alternative route in? Is there like going to be a, designated circuit to get into those properties?
We're currently doing some traffic modelling, and that modelling is really, its critical focus is to determine the viability of that one-way, sort of proposed one-way system. Because obviously we need to make sure that it works for local residents. This is a little bit similar to what we've done in Newtown, where we had a very confused multi-way intersection near where Jackman Ross has been there. But before this progresses to any further detailed design, we really want to make sure that as a system, this proposition works for residents. Yeah.
And just another element of this is away teams arriving by bus.
Yes, we have in the design, we've incorporated, and you can't quite see this in this picture, but it does allow us to have a dedicated bus parking area on Washington at times. So there would be some sort of operational situation where there would be a dedicated bus parking area more directly located in front of the chain.
But that's the circularity of that, though, you go around to come down Washington.
Yeah, so they would come down Washington and go out one way and then...
And exit onto the road or exit onto a footpath? So the bus parking would need to be on this side of the road.
Yeah, so the parking is designated for this side of the road.
And just one final thing is that the loading zone.
The loading zone's
Same place?
Same place.
Yeah.
It'll be improved if anything.
Yeah, okay.
Enhanced, yeah.
All right, thank you, Councillor Harvey. We have Councillor Kelly next.
Thank you, Chair. What I'm saying here is probably going to apply to a few of the things that I'll say anyway. Just to clarify that some of the graphic there where the road is on the coming down the right corner there, that just hasn't been whited out. Is that
correct? This is just a very internal, initial internal document drawing that we've created.
So that will be white there.
Yeah, that'll be a raised paved section, correct?
Right.
Yeah. We will, though, probably use a different paving material just to designate that this is a high pedestrian movement zone.
Yeah.
And while it'll still be a road, it will just have a slightly different feel.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of pavers, designs, everything's in the detail.
Everything's in the detail.
And
everything's in the material.
I reflect often on them all, and I remember that was ripped up to put the street in 77, and then that lot got ripped up because it looked like it was described as a slice of corned beef, and that was ripped up. Then you've got the current lot of pavers there. Now I notice there's calls for some people to say let's remove that. North Hobart, conversely, was done so brilliantly. It was a classic, elegant paver that didn't pop like the Lego land along the road here, and dated and all that.
Yes.
And so, and this being a heritage area here, it'd be great to see what was done in North Hobart, which is heritage, of course, too, in that not very timeless, never dated sort of thing, and easily repairable too, with the size and not all this zigzaggy stuff.
No.
There, so I assume that's in your good hands there, Philip.
In terms of the road sort of trafficable surface, we obviously want to make sure that it's durable. We have used some interlocking pavers out at Newtown with some success, and that's a really robust, quite a proven product. So certainly having a lasting design which is durable, and obviously working closely with our maintenance crews to make sure that it can be cleaned appropriately is important as well.
Bus stops, always problematic. My personal opinion is, and lived experience is, get them out of this immediate area, and I know there's arguments to counter that, but even if you're just going up a bit, I mean, this can be very turned into, just like Newtown is, a community gathering area.
Correct.
There's nothing worse than a diesel bus belching a bit of fumes while it sits there, and the whole noise, movement and clumsiness of these big yellow monsters sitting there, destroying that whole nice. In fact, if I was ruling the world, I'd be saying to push them up or back a little bit. I know you can probably counter.
No, it's again, that's a good point. Yeah.
And I've seen North Hobart, we moved that around a lot and finally got a good design and it worked.
No.
That was a bit of a common theme there as well. Lighting's crucial as well. I don't think it's another whole science in itself. I'd be interested later on to see that, particularly at night, that warm, as opposed to the bright, brilliant white light, which is clinical and blinding and absolute mood killing. The whole science of that's looked at properly. And a few people have probably done a walk around Hobart that I've been on, which shows the good and the bad of light.
We have seen the good and the bad.
You know, and once again, attention to detail, but right down to the element of what those light fittings and that look like. You go over to Belweave Quay there, once again, straight out of the Legoland sort of looked groovy for 5 years and was just so badly dated. Would be good there as well. Security cameras be going in this sort of area there as well, or provisions at least with conduiting.
We could certainly consider that.
Quite often we see this where without those conduits to the ground and the draw wires put through.
We can certainly put the conduits in.
At a minimum, and just make sure that's not overlooked, which I don't think. Another thing that's worked well other places is the notice board setup or column.
Yes. Okay. Great idea.
To go on, and it becomes a bit of a
cultural column.
It gives that community feel about it. It creates this community gathering spot, and that gives a nice touch. It's a bit of something colour
nice idea.
difference for local stuff and all that, and correct lighting on that as well. So
one thing that might speak to that is this area actually has quite a rich history, as people would be aware, but many people might not know that this was actually the junction for the first #1 tram in Hobart.
Right.
So the first tram used to run up Cascade.
Correct.
Correct. And this was a section where the tram had to stop and go off the rail. So that's informed our name, obviously, for the area. But then that also, culturally, we hope to speak to that through some public art that speaks to that and tells that story.
But what a great opportunity this is. It's not often many streets like this converging into that one location. Newtown this is another similar one. And Newtown, as problematic as that was, it looks great, you know, so a great opportunity for this sort of stuff.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Kelly. We have Councillor Possout and Alderman Zuko.
Thanks, I'll be really brief. Thanks for your work. I wasn't aware of the history. That's really good. I think that the community refer to it as Not About Now, that's got its own identity, and this will change because Not About won't exist anymore. So I think because there's so many streets coming into this one location, I think it is an opportunity to actually give it a name. And I look forward to seeing what you come up with leading into that history. The 2 points I have are really simple. One is that there's been a request from the community about a modal filter that facilitates bike movement onto Washington Street so that they don't have to do the dog leg to go around. So whether or not there's a way we can formalise that. I should also add, I endorse Councillor Comment's idea of a notice board in this location. I think it's a really good suggestion. The other elements are about raising either the entire intersection, not necessarily paving Macquarie Street, but thoughts of slowing everything down in this location. And I know that there'll be difficulties with that because it's a bus route and there's also freight and rubbish trucks and stuff. But in the absence of wanting to raise anything on Macquarie Street, whether or not Glen Street could be considered for a continuous footpath, a raised continuous footpath rather than curb ramps. Again, just elevating that pedestrian priority in that location. Great to see the angle parking to facilitate more visitation. That's excellent. Yeah, all things considered, and shout out to the Parks team as well. The retaining wall replacement, I understand the local feedback's really positive, and I rode past yesterday. And it looks, or today I should say, it looks really good. So council doing a really good job. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Councillor Posselt. Alderman Zuko.
Yeah, I gather in 3.9.1 the engaging of an engineering consultant was part of the work, part of the money in 3.7.1 of that 50,000 of the current capital works. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do we know exactly what the traffic engineering cost is?
Yeah, the current costs, I might have to take that on notice, but however, off the top of my head, I'm thinking around the 12 grand mark.
And can I just make this point? I've raised it before. I'd like to see these costs in the projects, because that way there I can see. Look, at the moment we've got 50 grand in capital works for 25-26, and then we want to allocate another 100. That's 150 going into this project, right? Yes, okay. When we're going down the line, we're going to be asking for funding opportunities. But I'd like to know what the funding opportunities are and what potential funds we can get. Yes.
Just 3.8 does have a little bit of detail around that, Alderman Zuko.
Yeah, it has the SLRIP.
Correct.
Okay, I think I was intoxicated when that came out.
It's
think we
safe
all
for local roads.
I know that, but I'm just saying, detail, please.
Okay.
Yeah, of
You
course,
know,
of course.
fair
Yes.
If I'm going to be going down the pathway of eventually wanting to approve, if I'm here next year, $1.4 million, which is going to end up being probably two plus. I really like the information. You know, the other point I really am a little bit concerned about is, and I think people know my viewpoint on community engagement, and that there are businesses there.
Yes.
And I always make the point, we need to speak to the property owner and the business owner, not the person when you walk in and say hello and they're serving you.
No, correct.
Okay? But I don't like the way it's structured here, in the sense that we will not see it as elected members until such time, right, it's gone through a massive phase. I'd like to know what the traffic modelling shows. So I'd like it to come back here when the traffic modelling's finished, so we can have a look. Then we can see if the one-way street in Washington Street's going to work. Because, you know, I'm just taking a look at how people coming up are going to try and get to Washington Street when it's someone not in the local area. So so I don't know what the answer is. I'm envisaging it, but I'd like to see that, because maybe that might throw up some questions that we might need to ask. So I'd like it to come back after the modelling. I'd like it to come back after the community engagement, and I want the details of the community engagement, right? Refining the concept plans, to my point of view, should be something that the elected members partake in that decision making, considering those other two aspects. So I think there's a lot more work than I want to see before I believe it should be going back to presentation to ELT and then come to the elected members. I think we need to be part of it, so we know exactly what's going on, and I want it to come back at those points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Zuko. I might just make a couple of points and then we'll move on with the rest of the presentation. I just had a question about the Washington versus Darcy Street intersection there. Does Washington Street have right of way there, in what we're looking at, with Darcy giving way to the left, I presume?
So come off. I think you would be giving way to the right there, but
There's be a line on the road. that'll-
Yeah.
Yeah, so there would be line
Just
markings.
There
I
will be
assume
none.
it's,
Yeah, yeah,
it'll
yeah.
get sorted out.
Obviously, the
one way or
traffic
another.
modelling will give us a lot more
Yeah.
detail around those.
Really agreed
functionality.
with Councillor Kelly's talk about the information column.
Yes,
Um,
okay.
Please, one like in North Hobart though, not like the one in Newtown.
No, okay.
It
No,
works
no,
much
I think
better.
we might have learned from
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Newtown one's not quite working because it's
No.
not shielded from the weather.
No, no, understand. No, no.
And my final comment really just is about what Alderman Zuko was saying. I feel like a lot of that stuff's a bit operational, and I would prefer not to see it come back to us repeatedly like that until we've actually got some meat on the bones. It's just my contribution. So look, we've got several other items to
We
present.
might need to pick up the pace a
We
little
might
bit
pick
so
up the
keep
pace.
moving.
We'll try and get through all those in one big hit, and then we'll come back around again for questions, if that's okay.
So this is our second main project for today, is the Montpellier Retreat treescape renewal. As you know, Montpellier Retreat is a very historic and significant route at the moment that is failing a bit in terms of pedestrian usability. So this project has come off the Battery Point plan, and also identified within LAMPS, which is the Local Area Mobility Plan. So this has been, as I said, identified as a significant street. We're looking to make it more people friendly, widen the footpaths, make it safer, more walkable, strengthen, and more importantly, strengthen the connection to Battery Point and Salamanca, which currently at the moment is failing. And obviously improve the wayfinding, and also have the opportunity to talk to the strong history and identity of the street, and create a sense of arrival or gateway into Salamanca, which is such an asset for our city. The other focus to this is also to understand and to reinforce that this is an operating business street. We don't have any intention to have an impact upon the businesses, rather we want to work alongside them and improve how they function.
Look, I think that's a really, really important point, and that was one of the key takeaways from our conversations with people in the street, property owners and businesses. And it's really much about supporting local businesses and also getting the street future development ready. It's probably one of the best streets in Hobart, but it really is not well configured at the moment. Obviously, you've got Salamanca at one end, the market. We need to make sure it works for that, but also we need to connect our two pristine and priceless precincts, which are Salamanca and Battery Point. Okay.
So we've created a very initial concept design, and I want to stress that this is very initial, to be able to take to and identify key stakeholders, being business owners and property owners, and have something to speak to, and gain further guidance from them. So through those discussions, we brought this design. So probably the biggest change would be we would look to make the very lower section of the street one way. Numerous benefits of this is it allows us to significantly widen the footpath. Importantly, maintain the 15-minute car parking along the edge there, which services many of the businesses, and also allow us to put in greater greening, wayfinding, possible public art and storytelling objects and the like. And then obviously as you come up to Montpellier Retreat, the majority of it is proposed in this concept to stay two-way, still allowing us to significantly widen the footpath. There will be some loss of car parking, but however no crossover or any loading zones will be removed or reduced in any way. If not anything, they'd be improved. Currently, as you would know, the top section is one way. However, the traffic doesn't always function correctly up the top, and it is highly problematic. So this allows us to widen the footpath, raise some sections, give some greater traffic calming measures and increase pedestrian hierarchy and safety.
Some of the feedback we had was that the Hamden Road intersection is very poor. Some of the interconnections and turning areas, particularly between Kirksway Place and Montpellier, are very poor, very poorly configured. So again, there are all opportunities to improve the functionality of the street for vehicles as well as pedestrians. And we would be proposing that James Street becomes James Street, and potentially Knotwood Street would become a shared zone, so a low-speed share zone, which would provide, again, a really good entry point and piece of connectivity from Battery Point into the Cove.
And to speak to that as well, we actually are underway with significant traffic modelling being done by an external consultant at the moment. We jumped on board at this stage as early as we could because we wanted to take advantage of dark mofo and see how our concept design would function with such an event on. Obviously, we're also modelling it around the markets and then also for daily operations throughout the day with loading vehicles when they arrive, people arriving and using the 15-minute parking spot, for example, and accessing those shops and the like. So as discussed, we went out and identified and engaged key stakeholders, them being the business owners and property owners. So in summary, early feedback was I thought was very positive. Obviously, there were some concerns raised, rightly so, with regards to the potential for loss of parking. Specific feedback was parking, vehicle access, servicing, the proposed one-way, implications of the changes on Saturdays. All of the feedback that we received, we feel that we can deal with quite well through the design process. And as I said, this is a very initial concept design that we just wanted to start the conversation with key stakeholders. So the next steps of this project is to get elected member feedback for the project objective and on the initial concept design. And then we hope to go officially out to the wider community and key stakeholders and do some further engagement that would would allow us to go back and refine a possible design and give us further clarity in regards to which way we go.
Okay.
So Chair, did you say we'll do all three and then come to questions?
Yes, I think it might just be a little bit quicker if that's okay. So just hold your questions. You're welcome to indicate so that you want to talk and I'll put you on the list.
We should have a swap in personnel, just on this one. This is Choi, and Choi's leading this project.
Hi everyone, this is Elizabeth Street Signal Project, so there's the opportunity to upgrade the junction of Elizabeth Street with Melville and Brisbane Street. So the project area, as I described earlier, so it targets on those both intersections only, so Melville Street and Brisbane Street intersections. So it delivers a combined infrastructure and placemaking upgrade, just leveraging on the state growth traffic signal renewal works on both of the intersection. So we respond to the end-of-life traffic signals renewal, so creating an opportunity for future-proof our CBE intersections. So this supports Central Hobart Plan Implementation Plan, strengthening Elizabeth Street as a walkable, vibrant and city corridor, and built on the Elizabeth Midtown work back in 2015, delivering the next stage of transformation. So the key design outcome of this project includes new traffic signals, obviously, improved stormwater infrastructure, so by adding more site entry pits that will take the overland flow, more of the overland flow of the road surfaces, improve accessibility, safety, lighting and walkability, and introduce screening and furniture elements, and lastly support outdoor dining and street activation. So on the left is the Brisbane's Elizabeth Street intersection. So you look at all 4 corners have extended footpath now, and with the pedestrian crossing along Elizabeth Street, raised pedestrian crossing. On the right is Melville and Elizabeth Street intersection. So all the corners are also widened footpaths, and with the whole intersection raised. So just looking at the next steps, we are looking at from July to next year, January, we would like to engage and consult with immediate stakeholders, and then conclude our final design with construction documentation. In February next year, prepare for construction tender documentation, and hopefully we'll be able to start construction in May, June 2027, and then at one intersection, and then the next intersection in July, August.
And just going back to the design concepts, Troy, if you could. This design really responds to some concerns we had, particularly from UTAD students, around the very poor quality of the intersection of Melville and Elizabeth. There was a range of access, formal DDA access concerns flagged with us. Obviously, this intersection sits at the heart of that university campus area. Again, this would really improve the connectivity between those facilities. Okay, next, and maybe go back to Shannon.
So our final item today is to update the council and after some feedback on the Elizabeth Street Vision Plan, which is a project that has a lengthy background history in terms of the work that City has previously done on Midtown with the community and the extensive surveys and studies that have occurred. Out of the Central Hobart plan, it was identified that there needs to be a more holistic look at Elizabeth Street and not to just proceed with one section, say for example, as previously we were focused on Midtown. Currently at the stage we are finalising a background paper and a project plan to move forward with developing a broader, more holistic Elizabeth Street vision plan and we've identified 4 distinct precincts, obviously being North Avenue, West Trinity, that Midtown section, and then the city centre and the Cove. So we would look to be developing some concept that would have a project which is staged, obviously, and probably starting off with perhaps the mall area or along those lines.
So maybe just to sort of embellish that, so as Shannon said, we've done quite a lot of analysis. We'll be bringing that back to elected members. We'll have a detailed discussion paper. We've done some survey of businesses in the street as well, which we did late last year. So we want to bring that full suite of information back to elected members, probably perhaps in the 3rd quarter this year. We'll come back to you with some proposals for the next stage. And as Shannon said, our key focus, aside from the opportunistic work we're doing in Midtown, which is really not mid-block, doing any changes to the mid-block, it's really just looking at those intersections. Our key focus for this project will be from the Cove to the mall, including Wellington Court. Some areas which, as part of the analysis that we've done, really are the areas which need the greatest intervention. So we'll be bringing that back as a sort of a big package for elected members shortly. That's it.
Okay, thank you. So we'll happy to go around for some more questions on those later parts of the presentation. I'll just remind everybody though, there's some significant items on the close tonight, so this is a longer meeting than it would appear. Okay, so we have Councillor Posselt, Councillor Harvey, Alderman Bloomfield.
Thanks, Chair. I'll be brief. I'll touch on Montpellier Retreat first. This obviously fell out of the Battery Point local area management plan. I think this is a bit of my read on it is that it's a little bit of a concept design to go out there and consult on, so we can find out more from the community
Correct.
and stakeholders,
Correct.
and that we've got an idea, and now we can talk to people. Without the idea, we can't really talk to people. I've already had some concerns raised by residents in the area about one way, and I do probably favour a Dutch Woolworth design rather than a one-way street in this setting where the cars may need to give way to each other, and there might be some deliberate pinch points that does slow everyone down and create conflict or friction, but that keeps us safe and comfortable. One way could be problematic, but we'll wait for the traffic modelling and wait for the residents. Another issue raised is Salamanca set down and pack up for the markets.
Yep.
This street is used, definitely.
Yep.
And anything that we do in this area does have to consider that, given it's a weekly thing, and it's very important for the city.
Very
and of course, you are considering that as well. I think that the footpaths may not necessarily need to be quite as wide as we're imagining in this area to facilitate two-way, but I do think that all things considered, it's in the right direction. So let's go out for consultation, and that consultation will likely bring back some of these things that I thought. At the top end, that intersection is woeful. Just the whole design of the entire intersection with Sandy Bay Road, Hampton Road, Montpellier Retreat, it's a hostile place with grade changes where even UTAS students recently, Troy came along, I think, to a UTAS presentation on pedestrianisation of our city, and somebody identified the desire line crossing the road from Sandy Bay Road at the top end of this street. It would certainly be my recommendation to include extending this project to the other side of Sandy Bay Road, so we can work out how pedestrians can get into this now newly pedestrianised highway. Because when the UTAS student brought up, she very briefly mentioned, oh, I've done this intersection, I'm walking into Salamanca, and everyone was like, oh, what's that? And then she showed a picture of it, and all of the council staff that were there just went, oh yes, we know that one. It's one of those, indicators that even the 19-year-olds are picking up that this intersection doesn't function. So my preference would be to extend. That's it for me. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Posselt. Councillor Harvey.
Starting with Montpellier, one-way section. What happens on a Saturday? So you drive down one way, how do you come back? Because you can't go through the market.
Correct.
So,
So on market day, we'd have to create a event-style two-way system. Now, everything's possible with curbless footpaths. So obviously, details in the design, but we would actually create an event mode where you could you could basically have some degree of two-way travel.
So you'd have a U-turn area.
Or
perhaps it would become two-way again, because you would essentially take over some of the flat pedestrian area or the car parking.
Yeah. But of course you actually have that blockage already on a Saturday market where you actually do have to turn around.
But if it's narrower road, it's more challenging to turn
It's a narrower road. The other thing for the market is we are responding to concerns and potentially for a runaway vehicle. Obviously, we do have some degree of vulnerability from a vehicle moving in an uncontrolled manner down what is a steep hill into the market environment, and so part of the design thinking is to by the sweeping design, you actually slow vehicle movement, and potentially we can have some bollards as well, which actually would reinforce and provide more security for the market environment.
Okay, I get that point. And the second part again is the top of Montpellier on Hampton Road. And recent example, only got cleaned up just a couple of days ago, as a car did not slow down as you came along Sandy Bay Road and swung around into Hampton Road. No intention of slowing down. And also cars that do U-turns, they come up Montpellier and they turn right where there's no right turn. Nearly everyone does it. They turn right into Hampton and then swing around, and you've also got to watch out for those cars as well. Yep. So it's a really dangerous little intersection sometimes. I'd like to know what sort of crash history we have there as well. Yep. But I'd like to fix that somehow so the road is not such a sweeping left-hand turn into Hampton Road, but some way of slowing cars down. They've got to then deliberately turn into it rather than sweep into it. And just with Elizabeth Street, I'd love to see, I think the mall's really tired chair, and I'd like to see it less cluttered as well. There's a lot of junk in the mall that seems to just occupy so much space.
Great, thank you, Councillor Harvey. You have Alderman Bloomfield.
With Montpellier, I was looking at the charts the way it was all put together. Is there a net loss of car parking in that area from doing this design, or?
Yes.
Yes.
How many?
16.
16?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there won't be any loss of car parking at the lower section. That'll be just at the towards the higher section, where there seems not to be such an issue with regards to.
But they're all full during market time.
Pardon, sorry.
That whole area is full during market time. So
It is very full. No, and we're being as transparent as possible around any parking losses in this current configuration. But it does provide that really significant improvement in amenity. But again, it's part of the conversation we'll be having with businesses, with the market, with the broader community around getting that optimal balance between pedestrian amenity, what best serves the current developments and future developments, which may in fact be widened footpaths for those hotels which may be being built in the area. And obviously coming down the track there may be more parking provided as part of any future development as well, potentially on one of the sites. But again, they're all part of the balance that we have to assess.
okay. And with Elizabeth Corners, in those two areas, with those look like they also have removal of car parks as well. Is that correct?
Troy, do you want to?
Oh, sorry.
That's correct. Yeah. So there's 3 car parking spaces lost there, but we're also adding a long loading zone back on the corner of Melville and Elizabeth Street.
Okay, but that's for both of them or each?
Both of them.
Okay, so that's 6 car parks?
No, sorry. So 3 in total.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
3 in total, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, because I will say that the previous works prior has really impacted as you go further up the street. People are simply parking further out and just, that's all getting wiped out.
Yep.
So a lot of the businesses are starting to squabble of each other. We're getting a lot of problems with people fighting about who's using what parks and so forth. And it's purely because the lack of amenity is becoming quite profound. And the other thing was too, I noticed too that, you know, the width of the parking and so forth and like that, this is all very close to the University of Tasmania. Are we going to be utilising their rates equivalent money? So is this finally an opportunity where we can actually use this promised funding?
That's something that would need to come back to elected members if that was being proposed. As you may know, there's an agreement which has a process for an agreement between the elected members and the university itself. So I don't want to predict how that would unfold.
This just seems so, you know, if it was triggered by university students and it's within the proximity of the University of Tasmania, I feel it's about time that we got to actually access the promised funding. That was all. And you also mentioned greening. So what greening is going on in this area? Is this more planter boxes?
More planter boxes, yeah. Because just given the underground services very cluttered in that area, so planter boxes is probably the best bet that we have.
Yeah, okay. And with the mall, same as what Councillor Harvey had said, when we'd had prior assessment by professionals before, a couple of years ago now, they immediately mentioned that the mall was too cluttered to be useful. And that in order to be able to do events and functionality and probably do some dark mofo stuff in there, that we needed to have less there. So this is also involving removing the roof that we have there, the temporary roof structure, I'd like to call it temporary, that's going and will be replaced by something else.
Potentially.
That's all that kind of work as well.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Okay, well that'll be really interesting to see what we can come up with, because that is something that once we learn what they said, we couldn't do anything, so we really got to completely wipe the slate clean start again, so that'd be good. That was all I had, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bloomfield. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. In no particular order, the mall, yeah, needs a big reboot, I think. You know, right down to those wind breaks which have never been used, that I can recall. That information centre thing was sitting there empty for over a year. Yeah, just interested to see. Got a blank canvas there to work with a bit. If you've got the budget, of course. Easy for me to say to do all that, and then not have the money, I guess. But this is only examination stage, isn't it? That's the whole reason we're doing this, I guess. So that's good there. I mean, I'm probably getting too futuristic and all that, but you know, I don't want to think too much and bang on too much about light rail or a sleek electric tram or rail service that might run up and down Elizabeth Street, but maybe, I don't know, if there was a decision to be made that it was just a very narrow thing that went from up Elizabeth Street back and down. Let's not snooker ourselves for some major thing we did with the mall that could be sort of futurised a bit. Look, once again, very futuristic stuff, but these light rail, very whisper quiet electric things that go up and down main roads and that, and you see them in the malls around the world, mainly in Australia. Just really thinking ahead there to the future. Montpelier, yeah, traffic, I get it, it's super hard, two-way, one-way, you're in dangerous territory. Trying to work that one out, but good luck. Consultations, what we're all about there. The trees, I think trees are great, we just can't have enough of them. I'd encourage us to look at more the planter box thing, which I get, it's great to avoid the problems of underground services and the costs and that, of getting more trees, material, something with a bit of height in them, instead of all this low growth shrubbery stuff. You see it done around other places I have, and you can bring them in and out easy, just crane them down, lift them off, do what you need to at the nursery, bring them back. Just something a bit more volume and height, perhaps. I haven't really seen much evidence of that around the place. So that's just a suggestion on the box stuff, which looks great, changeable, all those good things. My last comment is about, and I'm just reading off the Montpelier Retreat Mural, which I love the design of, nice bit of artwork there. Which right down the bottom thing here, it's got future vision, rebalance the street to prioritise people over vehicles. That's fine, I get that too, and what does concern me, and Alderman Bloomfield's touching on a bit there, is removal of car parks. Now, that's fine as well. I just think we've got to have more of a holistic look, citywide, what our car parking requirements are and what the plan is moving ahead, because I just get a little bit concerned when we're nibbling around the edges. It's 20 here, it's 10 there, it's 15 there, it's more taken out for the bike lanes here, and it's I never see any put in, and whilst there's probably good reasons for that, I acknowledge. I just think we've got to pit this against a bigger city view of what it is, because fine, if we've got a plan there to say this is what the city needs and this was locked in, always got to have a little bit of flexibility, of course. When it comes to here, I want to benchmark that against that, instead of all these things that just keep adding up and up and up and up and up. Before you know it, we've reached that tipping point, you know. So, but hey, convince me, and I won't have to ask those questions as much. Getting back to the tree thing I meant to mention as well, but just from your setting, if we look at that top left-hand picture there, just pretending you're walking up there, and a lot of this is subliminal, and we don't really think about it much, but that street there to me is pretty damn ugly, the buildings in it, and what, top right-hand corner there, that big, massive, sloping bitumen car park. Once again, the trees can soften that. I'd really encourage a nice line of trees along that, and sure, it's still got the parking, you've still got your footpath and that, but subtle inclusions like that, and you can see in the bottom left-hand picture just the difference that makes. If you take those trees out, the before and after, the difference, the softness, and same with the one on the right, with that makes so. If we could try and hide that ugliness of that car park here, maybe that should be considered as well.
But we do have some renders. Maybe it's just while elected members are just looking to come.
And once again, this looks fantastic, and the softening effect of trees, I just can't. estate, I don't believe, so it's good to see images like that. And the planter box experiments, I think we should really have a good hard look at that. It's a major project in itself, perhaps.
So yeah, trees are going to be critical to this project, and in all projects they are, but they need to be they need to be appropriate trees. So currently we have plane trees, as you know, on there that completely block the pedestrian movement. They drop a lot of something in our stakeholder engagement. It was made clear that they were actually quite problematic, particularly for the fisher group with their trucks and the like, with the debris that they were disposing of, essentially, for lack of a better term. So yeah, they would need to be something, like you mentioned, higher trees, more spherical, so capital pear or appropriate.
Yeah.
And little things like lighting units in those this day and age, with little solar things that go up the tree.
Yeah.
The illumination of that, the soft, warm light, it just transforms places.
Just in these renders, we actually have used all the approved developments, including the historic Sultan's development, just to give you a sense of what that current vacant block looks like.
So currently, if you look at the top here, that would be the Moss development application that's currently out on appeal.
A bit high, isn't it?
Maybe it's just perspective. But,
just reflecting on the appeal.
And then if you look at the middle section, you'll see that these were actually, while this development application lapsed, that's a representation of what was approved on the site, to give you a feel of what it would look like. And as mentioned, this is very critical in the sense that having this plan allows us to guide future development, so they're all working in together, humming. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, that's great.
Thank you. Alderman Zuko.
I'm looking at it, it looks fantastic. There's a lot of obstacles.
All right.
A hell of a lot of obstacles. I only spoke to 2 people today. One said to me, he was asked a few questions, answered a few questions, but never told that car parking was going to be removed. I can show you the text. Another person said that they put a caveat on whether or not they're going to support it down the track, and that's a major property owner there. Right? Yep. So we've got a lot of obstacles to get over. The other obstacle too is you've got your total budget is nearly $2 million. We want to put a further $675 in next year, $400,000 from the government. Either I'm missing it. Where's the other $1 million coming from?
Sorry. This is
Financial consideration. It's got total projects 1.975 million. There's an allocation of $100,000 for construction. A further 675 will be required in 2728, and state government is putting in 400,000.
no, that's the Midtown project. Sorry. We
That's
do
the
have
Midtown.
some.
Well, that's
sorry.
the question there on the Midtown anyway. So,
Yeah.
where's the other million coming from? Sorry.
So just to go back, like we do have some very, very indicative QS, which we just got. So we are looking at around 2.5 for this project, with potentially another 600,000 for Kelly Street if that was to be. Sorry, James Street if that was to be done.
So we're looking at about over $3 million.
Potentially. Yeah.
Again, though, this one is potentially suitable for grants, and
Yeah, okay. But I'd like to see what the grants are and breakdowns of costs and all that, because you know I like when we go and say council budget approval. Well, I need to know what the overall cost is going to be, not just an allocation for this year or next year or whatever have you.
Yeah.
Again, you know, I totally disagree with the chairperson whether this is operational or not. I'm the elected member. I have to face the community. I have to deal with the community. It's not specifically operational. It's also political. Mm-hmm. Now, and again, I'd like to ensure that I'm getting regular updates in respect of, especially when it comes to consultation. As I said, you know, conceptually it looks great, but we're losing a lot of car parking. The other concern I have is trees. Please, no deciduous trees. Please do not put deciduous trees in. It creates a problem down the track, we have to clean it up, creates a problem for our historical properties that are there, creates a problem for gutters and everything. I remember many years ago in the 90s when we were doing up the top end of Burnett Street, I said, well, why don't we put some fruit trees up there or some olive trees and get community right behind it, right? Okay, we're not going to put olive trees here, but that actually sees an evergreen tree, and the only problem with an olive tree is you've got to pick the olives once a year. That could be a community project. Or orange trees. It's probably why Italy's so great for having trees, fruit trees everywhere. So please, you know, tall, straight trees, if you're going to go down that pathway, not deciduous. So sorry I'm repeating it, but we've got to get away from those types of trees. It actually makes our city worse. I'd like to really know as well, from the cafe and the delis down the bottom there, right, their feedback. Very, very important to me, what their feedback is as well, as all the rest of the street. But could you go back to the ground plan, because there was a section there that I was curious about. On the right-hand side, down the lower section, that red area, what's
That's
that?
loading
Loading
zone.
zone.
That's just loading zone, is it?
That
Or-
currently is a loading zone, and
that's
yeah.
current loading zone with some parking as well.
Yeah.
There's two 15-minute car spots there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And we could have a mix, of course.
Again, what I'm saying, that's not, because there's two 15-minute spots, 2 or 3 15-minute spots there as well. So again, I'd like the feedback from those businesses. I think it's great that they'll be able to have dining on this side. I think that's fantastic. But again, I want to know the feedback. I can't read it anywhere. You know, I'm told about it, but then I get contact and people say, hey, wait a minute, I didn't know car parking was going.
I mean, the discussions we've had today have been quite contained, because we wanted to really essentially bring you the proposal first, having had a couple of key conversations, but we definitely acknowledge that we need to do further.
I agree with everybody else though, with the top end at Hamlin Road. I think that's an absolute disaster. It's always been a disaster. Look, just you know, like, to me, you know, do we block it? Do we make it a right-hand turn from Hamden Road only? I'm just giving you just little things. Do we put a roundabout there in itself? I'm just throwing things at you, whereby those people speeding up the road trying to turn left into Hamden Road have to slow down because you're coming up to a small roundabout. If you look at what happens in North Hobart there with the little roundabout at Strawn, it slows the traffic right down. Okay, so maybe, you know, that could be a solution to the whole of that intersection there, across the road and whatever have you, and that, you know. So I agree. That's an absolute disaster. That I do like what you're proposing in James and Knockwood Street to slow it down, but I'll give you an issue, and I'm subjected to this at all times, right? Now, it's only a small section of road in North Hobart where I've got my car parking under my building, and my neighbour's got the same scenario. There's not enough there for pedestrians to understand it's a shared zone, right? Sometimes when I'm driving down there, and I drive very slowly, I've been around it a long time, I get the bird off people thinking that it's only a pedestrian zone. So I think people have got to understand it is a mixed zone, and I don't think enough people get it. It is a mixed zone, and that's what you've got to look at there. Is if you are going to have a mixed zone, so people that are walking, people that are driving know that, and I think it's very important that it's, you know, a 20-kilometre zone or something like that. You know, and John talks about. John briefly touched on North Hobart. The concept design for North Hobart came from Perth. I actually brought it back to council from Perth, where the footpaths and roadways didn't have raised gutters, so people could walk more freely. Have a look at that concept here as well, because the lower the gutter, the less a person's got to trip, and actually if you do the culvert gutters, they're even better, right? And that's Northbridge in I don't know if it's changed since, but Northbridge had that, where it was a zone in Northbridge where you could walk, and you could walk amongst the cars because the cars were going at 20 k's, right? So have a look at that, and have a look at it also for that bottom end there. You know, because if you want to make something pedestrian friendly and you're going to put gutters in, well, are you making it pedestrian friendly, especially during market time? That's my feedback.
Thank you, Alderman Zuko. We have Councillor Kitsos.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I'll keep it very brief. Most of the comments around the table are the covered points that I had questions about. Just in terms of the market end of Montpellier, I just heard one of the replies from the officers say, you're talking about events, changing the flow of traffic for events, and given that the Salamanca markets are permanent, albeit 1 day a week, you know, I think 1 day a week, but on a permanent basis, changes it compared to less frequent events. I do think we need to treat it differently.
Yeah, look, I think what I meant was that we would put on a particular market day vehicle movement configuration.
Yeah, but from my point of view, it needs to be like that 7 days a week. Instead of changing it up, I think it's much better if everyone knows how that street works.
Yeah.
And if that street needs to work a particular way so that it can service the market, then I think that's the way that it needs to actually be set up, because it will cause confusion otherwise. And I also think that we have a particularly unique opportunity here to deal with some of the issues that we have with losing car parks. And the majority of complaints that I get about reduction in car parks have to do with our more vulnerable people that do need to drive and have poor mobility. So of course there are loads of options for other people, but perhaps we could actually make this a targeted spot within the Salamanca precinct, and particularly on market day, where you can go down there if you have the disability access sticker, if you have someone who can't walk, and actually unload your passengers there and then go and find a car park. So that could actually work in quite nicely with the loading and unloading that needs to happen for the market, to actually tell the ratepayers of Hobart and the people that visit the city for the market day that yes, it's reduced traffic, but this is actually a priority pedestrian access street. So if you need to get someone close to the market, you could actually use this street. I mean, that would be a really nice sell. And with that extra street furniture, dining, trees, and more accessibility and exposure, I think, to businesses in that street as well, with something like that too. So thank you, it looks great.
Beautiful, thank you.
Fair on that note, that is something that we definitely thinking about. As you probably aware, Dementia Australia is located there. So we have had initial thoughts about the possibility of doing something car parking wise in terms of that and facilitating that. And then also going further than that and maybe looking at when we're doing greening, or like having a sensory garden or something that speaks to the businesses that operate in that area.
Okay. Fantastic.
Chair, I just hold one thing very briefly for choice projects and comment on it. Can we consider slightly longer bike boxes than what we've done traditionally? I know Mr. Dow will know about, there's been some exchanges about the size of bike boxes, and particularly potentially for more changes for motorbikes to be allowed to use them, which is the case in other states. If that law does come in the next few years, the current bike box infrastructure is not quite long enough to support bikes, so any new bike boxes, if we can make it a bit longer, that'd be great. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Purcell. All right. Oh.
Public, you're going to public ask questions?
Yes, I guess you're correct there, Councillor Alderman Bluefield. Did we have anybody in the public who wished to ask a question of the staff regarding this issue?
Hi, my name is Nadia. I'm president of the Salamanca Market Stallholders Association. Firstly, I do have some disappointment in that stallholders, as stakeholders of the market, have not yet been consulted, and yet other businesses have. So I would just like to make that clear that we would like and deserve consultation. But I do have some concerns in regards also to the 16 car parks that are being removed, or suggested that they be removed. With the implementation of 69 new rooms down at the Moss Hotel, these 16 car parks in that area are desperately needed. This weekend the market is also losing dozens of car parks that are available to the public and store holders at Parliament House. We'll no longer have that access to those car parks, and in conjunction with those and a further 16, we are going to see impacts. The narrowing of the street at the bottom, at the market end, is also of concern. Anyone who has ever driven a larger van, a trailer, a caravan, or even staff at the markets with their tractors will know that that is going to represent a nightmare or even an impossibility for access. With it also potentially being one way, we are also going to have a lot of issues with queuing later in the day with trying to exit the market. As they are not going to be able to exit the market from Montpellier Retreat, they will only be able to exit further down into Cascade, which is already an issue. So not being, removing one access to the market or exit point is going to provide a lot of issues there as well. So they're just a few immediate concerns. I'm sure that there are more, but I would like to know what the council has thought specifically, and how they could help the area in lieu of those 16 car parks, in terms of how that would affect the market on Saturdays, and what concerns there are in traffic management on Saturdays versus during the week.
Thank you, Nadia. I might just pose a question to the staff on your behalf there. Is it within your ability to fast track some consultation with the Stallholders Association on those issues?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So obviously we have been having quite a lot of conversations with the market management. So obviously with the team who are responsible for setting up and operational. I'd be very pleased, and as with Janet, come and do a presentation and do a workshop with the Stallholders Association. I've attended quite a few meetings in the past of the association. I'd be very pleased to do so again and step through with the whole association all the things you've just talked about tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Was there anybody else who wished to raise a question?
Hi, my name is Gareth Wills. I'm the managing partner of the Chemist Warehouse in Solomon. So sadly, like Councillor Zuko mentioned, I was one of the people that I think a letter's been dropped to one of my very junior staff members. I hadn't been reached out myself, so this is the first thing I heard about the change. I was reading the past article this morning, I know in the plan the 16 parks were lost. What percentage of the parks is on the road?
Sorry.
Percentages.
The percentages.
What is 16 as a percentage of the car
On the
parking?
plan, there's 16 left. Does that mean we're losing 50% of the parks on the road?
I think we're no, I don't think that's quite the case. Look, very happy to take that on notice and come back to you specifically.
Yeah. At the moment with the pharmacy, we lose all our access to parking. There's plenty of parking down the road,
Correct.
nothing
Yep.
near us. What's the plan for the disability or people with access to pharmacy or with parks?
Again, we haven't gone into the detail around where the disability parking will be. Again, just to stress this is the concept. So we have given a proposition which we've shared with a number of businesses, and just to say that we did actually seek reinforcement from the staff member who picked up your letter and stressed that it really had to go to the manager. So I'm sorry that didn't get to you. That wasn't the intent.
Sorry, just for clarification on that, and I'm very sorry that you didn't receive the correspondence. I actually personally delivered the letter. I actually delivered it to not one of your junior staff members, I actually delivered it to one of your pharmacists, higher pharmacists, and had a lengthy discussion with him, directing him to pass the information on to you. So hopefully that just provides some clarification.
Yeah.
In the end, it means I haven't got things with my name and numbers on the door of the pharmacy as the owner. With the changes with the Moss Hotel, in that application there was a lot of talk around the reduction of car parks due to their building and the issues that would take on the road. What's the planning with these changes and the Moss Hotel changes with the timing?
So certainly we've obviously spoken to the Baracus Group around Moss Hotel. One of their big concerns was having any works happen at the same time they're doing their works. So certainly there would be no construction around this project in alignment with their proposed construction work, because that would be very impactful. And really at this point we're not focused on construction, we're focused on sitting down with the community, particularly the traders, obviously Salamanca Market, and obviously the wider community, and coming up with an optimised design for this really important street. Yep. So construction and construction conflict is some way away, but we are certainly mindful that that's something we don't want to see happen.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Gareth. Any other questions from the... Oh, we have one further. Just state your name for the room.
Firstly, I want to say I like the idea of coming up with some concept to improve the street, but I think there's a real flaw, and it's the one way. The one way is not going to work. And you won't have a one way so you can widen the footpaths, but I think you may have to scrap it. I can't see how it's going to work, considering we have a lot of deliveries and they come in off Salamanca Square and they turn up. They don't come down Kirkswell Place because the left-hand turn is too difficult. And I just, well, I actually am philosophically opposed to one ways. I don't like the way Hobart works. It's not one ways. Now we're about to add another one-way street. Think about coming into Salamanca Square, driving into it with retro on your right. You go to Montpellier Retreat, you can't turn right. Where do you go? Up to the silos and head off into something, into Barry Point. It's a disaster. You've got to have, the flow works. It's a great street. It's actually the feeder to Salamanca. It's a really important street. And to muck around with it with one way, I just don't think it'll work. On a positive, I like what you're doing up the top end. Something needs to be done up there. James Street, yeah, beautiful walkway, shared with cars, that could work very well. But I just think at the other end of the street, it's a business district, trucks coming all the time. And finally, the loss of on-street car parks. On-street parking is really important to small retail. They don't want to go into a car park, pay $15 for a car park, and then go in and buy a $10 sausage. It doesn't work. They want a quick 5-minute parking or 15-minute parking, and to lose 15-minute parks, multiply that throughout the day, that's a heap of cars. That's a lot of traffic. One last thing, I had a shop many years ago in Launceston, in the Cotton Hall, and the council came and put together all these ideas about malls and walkways and get rid of the parking or put them all up in these private car parks, and it killed the Cotton Hall, and I had to leave. And that will happen if you do that to me in Montpellier Retreat. And we have a really interesting shop that's tourists absolutely love.
Sorry.
Salamanca, and it's a deli. It's a retail shop selling all sorts of Tasmanian product, wine, cheese, meat, factory beef, and it's really important to stay there. And you've got to think that, and we are an important part of that area, and we need customers coming in and leaving, and I think, the parking's a real problem with that. And I don't know whether you need footpaths to be as wide as you think. There is plenty of room in those footpaths as they are. They need to be flattened and smoothed out. But I don't know how much wider you need. There is quite a bit of traffic movement last night coming down to the final night. They all managed to come down the street.
Question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Please, Mr. Chair.
Well, we had moved on past...
I'd like to ask a question. I'm entitled to ask a question.
well, it's my ruling, but I will allow you.
Your ruling, check the terms of reference.
I'm allowing you to ask the question.
Okay, it's not
Alderman Zucker.
prohibited under the
Ask
terms
the question,
of reference.
Alderman
Okay,
Zucker.
it's the second week in a row. Peter, may I ask a question? How long have you been in Salamanca?
1991.
1991. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask-
Thank you for your contribution.
Can I just make a quick comment to
We're not having comments. If you have an actual question,
Oh, I
you can
just have a
ask.
question. Could this widening footpath go into the car park, the big vacant car park with some land agreement acquisition to widen the footpath there? Just might be something to consider with the current landowner who has that vast quantity of real estate.
Something to
Thank
talk to
you.
them about. Thank you.
All right. I think we've come to the end of that item, unless there's anybody else in the crowd who wishes to ask questions. Mr. Dale.
I'll keep this one brief. With regards to the, it's around 43 trees currently proposed, has council done any sort of modelling as the ongoing maintenance costs with regard to the footpath and road damage that the roots from those
Thank you. I'll put that to the staff.
Well, I'll just say that there's a lot of work being done to make sure, things have moved on from some of the species we've used in the past. Now we're very focused on making sure that the species we choose doesn't cause that root uplift in the first place.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think that brings us to the end of this item. Thank you very much to everybody who's participated.
Thank you.
We're next.
For the rest of us around the table, we do have a motion attached to this. So I will put the motion. Okay. I thought, yeah.
It's to go to consultation.
It's just that we endorse the progression. So it is
progression of consultation. And subject to traffic modelling, I think.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Very good. And thanks for joining us.
We'll just wait.
Yeah, it's a great project. It's all great, yeah. It's all the stuff that I'm here for, is this sort of stuff, so I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, so just to dot the i's and cross the t's on that final item, for those of us around the table, there is a recommendation attached to this item, and that is that the Hobart Workshop Committee endorse the progression of the Macquarie Street South Junction and the Montpelier Retreat upgrade to community engagement as detailed in the report. I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against?
No.
All right, we'll need a vote on the hands. All those in favour?
Myself, Harvey, Kitsos, Bloomfield, Kelly, and Woburn,
And all those against?
Zuko.
Because I don't endorse it at the moment.
That is fine. The item is carried, and we'll move on to item 8.1, which is item for workshopping. It's Self's Point.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yep, Councillor Kelly.
May I ask a very quick question to the CEO regards to the motion that we just passed?
Yes.
Because he wasn't there. CEO, through you, Chair, just the way that's publicised, I quote an example just recently, we passed a motion for another study to be done. That was more, the way it went out in the press and articulated that we'd agreed, we'd endorsed something happening, and it didn't make specific mention to, and I can highlight it to you another time, that it was for a study, not the full endorsement of this happening full stop. And I've got a lot of comments from people saying, oh, well, I didn't realise you endorsed that. I said, no, it's purely a study, to which I have a very open mind. So I just request that that's articulated very carefully in our correspondence. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly and CEO. So, 8.1, Self's Point and Cornelian Bay Master Plan update. This is just an update. I'll remind elected members that no decisions are made in workshops. And I'll invite the Leader of Sport and Recreation and the Manager of Place Design, Sport and Recreation to introduce the item and make a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. We'll make this pretty quick, given that we've taken quite a bit of time to date. Basically, this is to provide an update on the Self's Point and Cornelian Bay Master Plan. The plan addresses ageing infrastructure, poor connectivity and competing uses, and the work builds on earlier plans, some dating from 2020, and the project work recommenced in 2025. And really what we're trying to do is build a coordinated and integrated precinct vision. This is a piece of work that we've been doing, both the Sport and Recreation team working hand in glove with the open space team, given that this is very much a formal and informal recreation space, plus with a whole range of parks, natural space and playgrounds. The study area is quite large. It basically includes a range of key assets: Cornelian Bay Oval, the hockey centre, rowing centre, and obviously the cycleway. Focuses on improved connectivity, facilities and equitable access. We've done a lot of engagement with clubs, government, community and a whole range of stakeholders. And it considers linkages and opportunities arising from the Taswater new sewerage plant as well. Some of the key themes that have emerged: sports facilities, upgrades, new multi-sports hub, which I think we've briefed elected members on, and improved club amenities. In terms of connectivity and access, new paths, better linkages, parking and lighting improvements right across the precinct. Recreation, very broad, swimming, kayaking, new amenities, outdoor recreation and play. And landscape and storytelling, cultural interpretation, public art and tree planting. Some of the key recommendations are obviously shown as dot points. So obviously the Cornelian Bay Sporting Pavilion and amenities, working with Newtown Rowing to improve their amenity, working with the Bridge Club to improve their parking and potential expansion, given they're such a popular and heavily used facility. The multi-sports hub now moved to South Point Road, working with the Hockey Centre to deliver their master plan, which is reasonably mature, and improving kayaking accessibility on Cornelian Bay in some form. We haven't got to that detail yet, but that's what we're looking at. Access and connectivity, again, lots of opportunities here. Improve access to the water for the Newtown Rowing Club. That's new rowing ways, which obviously heavily used area. Improve connection between Newtown Bay, South Point Road and Cornelian Bay, and then looking at how we can link the precinct right around the headland. Again, doing some work with TAS networks around that as well. So you better walk right around the headland. Improved lighting. Lighting is very poor. Obviously, be respectful of the night sky. We don't want to make it overlit, but appropriate lighting provision for safety. Improved vehicle and pedestrian access along Marine Esplanade and South Point Road, both of which are fairly poor condition. Exploring traffic calming measures along Queen's Walk, just given the interaction between the playground and the park, and then the waterfront edge. Implement consistent car parking standards to improve safety and functionality. It's pretty a bit haphazard right across the precinct at the moment. Connectivity, I think the precinct is really physically removed from the rest of the city, particularly from a pedestrian perspective. So again, long-term vision, looking how we can connect the precinct to Newtown, and how we can connect the precinct to the domain. So they're two opportunities. The domain linkage obviously hinted at as part of the domain master plan. And I think we see this as an opportunity for the northern part of the city to connect with the water, and anything we can do to improve that connectivity is really important in this precinct. Provide designated viewing areas, particularly along the foreshore, improve paths and wayfinding, and investigate opportunities for more connectivity from this precinct to the mountain. Well, we obviously have Newtown Rivulet there, but how can we connect this precinct to the mountain to create that river to mountain experience? Recreation, investigate the potential for swimming at R1, which was a potential reinstatement of the heritage swimming pier, which was there up until the early 2000s, when it burnt down. But from talking to Newtown Community Association, many members of that community remember learning to swim there. So we have some propositions which will include in the final master plan, final draft master plan. We'd like to have a suite of furniture for the whole precinct. Potentially putting public toilets at Newtown Bay Park, which is that little island park on Newtown Bay. Again, has lots of opportunity, but has a pretty low level of servicing at the moment. Bike racks, repair stations, water points and pet facilities right across the precinct. Potentially install an outdoor gym, potentially to improve amenity for people of all ages, but particularly for older children. Install recreational paddling and kayaking launch facilities, so you don't have to wade through the mud to get to launch your kayak. And potentially a half-court or pickleball facility as well, again reaching into that slightly older age demographic. Landscape and storytelling. This is an area which has an extraordinary rich history, obviously pre-European, post-European, and there's a really wonderful story to tell there. We've currently engaged a Palawa consultant to engage with that community, but certainly on the headland there is an opportunity to rediscover and reawaken that sort of memory of country on that headland and right throughout the precinct. So in a really quite a profound way. Wayfinding and signage, because it is quite a confused environment, and that would potentially include working with the cemetery to have better wayfinding into the cemetery and then potentially through the cemetery, because obviously the cemetery is a really historically rich area. It's a very beautiful area, but it's quite confusing, so having some wayfinding that again provides some desire lines one side of the cove, sorry, from Cornelian Bay across Cemetery and then into Newtown Bay. More plantings, particularly along some of the key avenues. Do some review and sort of rationalisation of the vegetation. Wayfinding again, some public art, and again storytelling. And then I think a long-standing issue has been some aged commercial signage on one of our sporting facilities, and we need to rationalise that as well. Some of the next steps are to incorporate Palawa community engagement outcomes, refine, undertake community consultation, and then final council endorsement. And again, that plan for a connected, inclusive and high-quality recreational precinct. So what we're currently doing at the moment is we are refining the final draft document. We will then bring that back to council for endorsement, and then we'll go out to community engagement.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, so questions and comments. Councillor Kelly was first, Alderman Bloomfield's next.
Thank you. A great follow-on from the presentation we initially saw a while back. Just a question in the first instance, the linkages which are so important and a great thing to do. So that's between the petroleum source point part and Taswater's side. Is that where you're saying we're putting a lane? Yeah.
Well, we've had a conversation. We have had some early conversations with Taswater. Those conversations are continuing about that opportunity.
Yeah.
The thing that we just talked about then was actually, again, working with Taswater to reinstate a pathway around the headland, which currently you can't do. So that's because obviously there's been a laydown area as part of their construction that'll be reinstated, and ideally we'll have a landscape treatment around that zone to allow you to move from Cornelian Bay around the headland and then down into Newtown, down into South Point proper. Now there are some opportunities potentially working with Taswater to get some more points of connectivity from South Point Road to Newtown Bay.
Yeah, maybe we should have probably thought about that too when we did sell that land. Something to reflect on and learn from. That initial sale, maybe a big sway should have been left through there. Anyway, missed that boat. The river city that we are. And I know whilst this is out of the defined zone, which is not on the screen there anymore, but is that possible?
Yep, sure.
And I know the current much loved and highly used Cornelian Bay walkway towards the bridge along the river there, not the bike track. I'm getting nervous about this whole loss of this amenity. A report previously saying that, you know, it needs a lot of re-engineering with some of the little bridge things and all that. And I do worry that, you know, that whole track could, and it was even suggested that maybe it could be closed down in some years because of rising river levels and climate change and all that. So the point I'm making is all these facts that we're talking about here and making this walk around there, which is fantastic stuff and I fully prescribe to, I just think that and plus the walk that goes back towards town, it does start in this defined zone.
Yep.
I don't think we've got to look really hard and serious along about maintaining that link down there, because we're doing all this fantastic conceptual work here, possibly work that's going to happen, and then to lose that big chunk from the Tasman Bridge up to here would be a tragedy. And a lot of money and time and effort was put into it, and it's a direct leakage and should be considered in this study, ultimately, I do believe. Good luck with the, my mother used to tell stories when she was a young lady, learning to swim at Keeling Bay in the swim house that got burnt down some 10, 15 years ago now. And yeah, look, swimming pools and everything else, and roofs and like very expensive and all that. We do have the aquatic centre, but look, hey, let's put it on the wish list, and there's no harm with that. But it's probably going to get turned into one of these monsters that devour large amounts of money and all that. But hey, why not have a look in this early stage? I still would like to see some sand testing done on that Keeling Bay, which will give us guidance as to whether we should be doing more work on that beach or less or whatever. I think we should really prioritise that while we've got a bit of time to do. And that's going to set us off in a future direction. But look, this area is so fantastic, this whole area, and the opportunities are great, and it's good to see this plan recognising that. But first of a long process, I guess. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly, Alderman Bloomfield.
I love just how much is involved in this. It's really interesting. I guess the first thing I thought about was, though, that this is going to be obviously a very expensive project, so I'm assuming that we're waiting on grants for this. This is not something we're just funding, is it? Because, I mean, how much is this project going to be?
So it's simply a master plan at this point. So it'll be basically, we treat our master plans as building up a range of potential projects, which then can go through the normal, project planning, obviously going to our 10-year capital works plan. But it's really just establishing a framework that sets us up to plan appropriately for the future. Obviously, to plan for potential funding opportunities as well, but it just creates a list of projects that, when the time's right, we can start to explore.
No, that's fine. Okay, so with this learn to swim thing that they're talking about, I'm wondering, because we already have the aquatic centre and we're really just getting that online, we've got immediate competition coming up with the hockey pool anyway. Rather than having yet another, could we explore something that's completely different? Because I note, for instance, that elsewhere, I suppose mostly in Brisbane really, but they have a lot of very, very shallow pools, like really ultra shallow, where kids can kind of do more like a water play thing. What if we went to explore in that direction instead? Like, do you know what I mean?
I think what's being considered here is actually a very low jetty, which is actually very low to the water.
Yeah.
That might be potentially partially enclosed, but it certainly wouldn't be a pool of a very, very expensive roofed or it's where you're actually separating a body of water. It would basically just provide an opportunity for you to enter in and exit from the water safely.
So we're talking about contaminated water here, aren't we? This is where the mud is that's...
This would be in deep water, where we understand the water quality is moving to a better state. What we're doing here is really just identifying this as a future opportunity, not seeking to prosecute it right away, but it would be a very light touch. It would be a very simple, ideally a very simple form that just basically rests just above the high tide mark.
If we're encouraging interaction that's got a potential contamination,
we would only do it at the point at which we are confident the water quality is swimmable. Yeah, and it would be in a zone where you are not in any contact with the substrate. Yeah.
Right. Any more questions there? No? Okay. Next we have Alderman Zuko.
Yeah, look, many years ago I pushed hard for us to tackle the federal government in regards to the reinstatement of the stand that they stole from us back in the war. We've got an opportunity here whereby we want to upgrade the whole area. I understand that, that went towards the war, but it was taken from us. I'm no expert in how contaminated the area is, but even if we can't swim there, wouldn't it be great just to have the sand across there? Wouldn't it even be great to look at thinking outside the square, and saying, hey, why don't we see if someone might be interested in doing something there, like creating a wall. Like, I'm just being right out there, because if Dubai can, if Abu Dhabi can put air conditioning in the sand, anything can be possible. Imagine potentially a wall somewhere across there with sand on one side and clean water on one side, activated. I don't know. Put it out there to people to see what they can come up with ideas on how it can reinstate this as a swimming area. But I think the first step, and I think that the thing you need to add into what you're doing here in the overall thing, because you talk about funding and all that, okay, you might get funding, but I still believe that we should be pursuing the state government, the federal government, in reinstating the sand. Even if it's not going to be done straight away, in agreement to say, one day we're going to do it. But then put out there for expressions of interest on how, if someone's interested in a development of the area where swimming once was, who knows? We've got in Melbourne, just near the airport, we've got that facility for surfing. Who knows? There might be some business person that wants to do something crazy. So give that some thought.
Fabulous. Thank you, Alderman Zuko. We have Councillor Harvey next.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Couple of other little additional things. I hate to create additional stuff, but anyway, I will. There's a community shed proposed in there as well. Correct. At top of the hockey centre.
Yep.
There's also a whole big chunk of our land that sits next to the Friends sports fields that they've leased. How long is that lease for? Is it eternity, or could we be utilising that extra space for, I don't know, some further plantings, or like it just sits there and gets slashed regularly?
Yep.
It's got a bund around it to stop people doing donuts on it.
Yep.
So there's that land. I'd like to know what that land's for.
Yep.
Another thing that I find interesting, other people may not, but a lot of this area is filled, and I'd like to, I don't know, if we could have a marker that says this was the original wetland, not the original tip, but the original wetland before we started turning it into a tip, or whenever it was. Because I know that Runnymede, which is one of our most historical houses, is just sitting there in that grey bit to the left of the Friends School sports fields. And once upon a time they would, park their boats at the base of that. They'd row up to it and climb up the bank there, or whatever they had. I don't know, I just have an interest in the original coastline, because much of the bay, much of the Derwent has been filled, and some of it hasn't, and celebrating the bits that haven't versus the bits that have,
Yeah. And in an earlier version, we do actually have some diagrams which do show the understood original shoreline and obviously the wetland area. And of course, we are proposing interpretation and storytelling, and that absolutely could be factored into that work.
So yeah, anyway, I don't know what it is, whatever they are. And the other one is where you keep your shopping trolleys is just at the end of the Queen's Walk, at the bottom here, and then you take your bags, you dash across to the middle aisle, and then you wait again, then you dash across to the units across the road there.
Yep.
I haven't seen anyone get skittled, but often there's half a dozen shopping. I stack them up nicely, put them in a nice neat row when I'm down that way with the dogs. But it needs an overpass, designed for shopping trolleys to go up. No, but people don't go to the lights.
No.
Yeah.
People go to Kmart, come back along that road, park them there, run across the road, risking their lives. Is there a chance? They don't go to the tunnels, then you've got to go up the grass hill. So is there an opportunity to talk to state growth to say, could we potentially have an overpass?
Interesting idea.
I mean, I say no.
One of the ideas in this, and all we've indicated as being as a dot actually is potentially the reinstatement of Queen's Walk as a pedestrian bridge. Now that obviously comes at very significant cost, and obviously would need to land on both sides, but that has been one of the long-standing ideas within the master plan.
Yeah, yep, okay. And the other thing, Gas Road's one of my passions now. I'm obsessed with that little piece of land there. And I'd love to think that we can work with the cemetery, which is not on the list of people we've consulted with, but you did mention.
We have.
Didn't make the list.
No, sorry.
Anyway, we left that out. So I just assumed. I'd love to think that we can access the cemetery and be able to wander through with our dogs.
I think because we actually did talk about dogs with the cemetery.
We can put them in the shopping trolleys if we can the other day.
And obviously, I think they are really comfortable with people moving through the cemetery, and obviously, as I said earlier, better communicating the desire lines through the cemetery. They were very firm, though, that they would not allow dogs at this point. But very firm.
Okay, that's about it, but I like to think that there's a nice path at the end, Gasworks Road, and I'm still interested in what the lay of the land will be like after they either take away the laydown stuff. Yeah, I'll talk about that any time. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Posselt's next.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I'm going to briefly reflect on a few of my comments from my colleagues. Councillor Kelly's suggestion to formalise that walking route, that coastal walking route, I strongly endorse and think that it should be at least referenced in this plan, even if the plan itself, the boundaries aren't extended. But the idea of a walking track that's off the intercity cycleway that attracts all of the things that we see with the Battery Point walkway, which we're finding very difficult to deliver, but attracts a coastal running and walking route, and that may involve some boardwalk all the way to the stadium precinct, I think would be a big boon for this area and part of the whole activation of the master plan. To touch on Alderman Zuko's comments, he kindly shared with us some time ago the history, I think when this master plan was first brought to us, the history around his motion and the re-beaching concept. And there is a report from 2007 on returning sand to Cornelian Bay. It reflects that there was about 6,500 cubic metres of sand removed from Cornelian Bay Beach. And I do endorse the idea of even just having, not for swimming, but having a space for children to be on sand, at the water's edge, is much more appealing, and it also may assist with some of the odours, particularly that happen in the western corner, I'm going to say, near the boat sheds. And I do think that, have officers looked at that, the 2007 report?
Not specifically, no. So I think that's...
No, we did a little while ago. There was questions, I think we wrote to the government about it, but we can certainly have another look at it.
Yeah, that's right. It's certainly worth looking at, but it basically says that it's completely feasible to truck in the 6,500 cubic metres of sand. It needs to be a certain size, and it will stay there, and the size of the sand will result in the gradient of the beach. I'm not a coastal engineer, but that's what it said. Finally, I'm just going to open up my list of comments I had. Queen's Walk, I know you reference it in the master plan, but I've only recently been exposed to hockey mornings with my son on a Saturday, and it's really quite unsafe, Queen's Walk as it currently stands. The fact that there's no pedestrian crossings, and I think this should be really low-hanging fruit even outside of the master plan, but in between games, there's like 50 or 100 6-year-olds trying to cross Queen's Walk, and there's no guidance as to where to cross, let alone pedestrian priority, and people still rat run through there. So I think that should be a really high priority, and I think that a pedestrian crossing should be specifically called out in the master plan, not just traffic calming, but there needs to be an ability for children to cross from the playground and the boathouse cafe and the beach to the green space and the field without their parents supporting them. That's it for me. I love your work. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Posselt. And finally, we have Councillor Kitsos.
Just one comment from me. When we had the presentation a few weeks ago about the pavilion at Nut Grove, we were talking about the lack of kayak storage facilities.
Yeah, it's in there.
Well, yeah, you mentioned a spot to put them out, but yeah, if we could look at a community.
A kayak facility, like
Yeah.
storage facility, yeah.
Yeah, yes, a place to house them, I think that's all we needed.
Fantastic. Thank you, councillor Kitsos. Does anybody else have any further comments to make? Does anybody in the public gallery wish to make a comment or ask a question about this particular topic? No. Right, well, we'll call that to a close, I think. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
What's the role of papers for?
We were going to do an exercise with all your other ideas, see if anything we hadn't covered.
Sticky notes.
Well, we were just going to pen it,
Which is
but we ran out of time.
We've got them anyway.
That's yours, Philip?
Yeah, we have
Yep.
written them down.
That is mine, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, that brings us on to questions without notice. Do we have any questions around the table? No questions? So, look, I'll invite an elected member to move a motion to move to the closed portion. So moved from councillor Harvey.
Thank you.
Put the motion to move into closed. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Motion is passed unanimously, so we'll move into closed.